Hello and welcome to All For United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. It's the last Thursday night show of the season, isn't it? We'll still continue these, by the way, over the summer and going into next season, but I think it's only right that we had a Man City fan on going into this final weekend. So, Emma, thank you for joining us. How are you keeping, mate?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, all good. Thanks. Hope you're doing all right as well.
Yeah, we're not too bad. Thank you. I think for us, and Barry, feel free to jump in here. I think the West Ham away game was where our mentalities kind of shifted from going from maybe favourites to, we've got to got to get used to hoping the City slip up now. And
no, it's Villa for me.
Was it Villa for you?
Villa for me, different claret and blue. I still held on to it when it was West Ham, but yeah, Villa, that was must win that one. So at that point, I was starting to pray a lot more than I normally do at that sort of point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. Jamie, thank you for joining us again. Really appreciate you coming on. How are you keeping?
I'm good, thanks. Do you guys, if you watched soccer back in the day, they used to give people a hat-trick ball when it was their third appearance, and that's me today, I think.
We need to sort that out for next season, although I think we'll be giving quite a few balls away. But yeah, no, that's a good actor. I remember Soccer AM, and it was only a couple of weeks ago. Was it Alicia Lehman that was on Soccer AM? Yeah. Scoring top bins. I thought that was really good to see. Absolutely.
Great shot.
It really was, yeah. Barry, thank you for taking Connor's place today. Connor's out somewhere, but I'm sure we'll be back over the weekend and going into next week as well. Look, guys, we want to crack on. We want to talk a little bit about, as fans who just experienced our last home game of the season, United and City fans, we just want to kind of talk a little bit about our emotions there, seeing the players leave the stadium for the last time. I know, Barry, you waited until the end to watch how the players come out as well. So we want to touch on that. We want to kind of talk a little bit about what players would get into the opposing sides. So maybe like do some sort of starting 11 if everyone's on form, or even if not on form, if we judge round about right now who would get into each other's team. I think that's always a fun thing to do. So we've got things to be cracking on with there, and of course what we expect on Sunday's games as well. So Barry, we'll start off with yourself. Our last home game, you haven't been on the show this week to kind of talk about it, but you waited until the very end after the game. What were your experiences and thoughts about when you saw all these players coming onto the coach?
Well, I hung around inside the ground to begin with. And I think a bit like Jamie tweeted before, it was just you could tell it was the last game of the season because everybody was out there. Mary Earps was off playing Santa Claus and giving gloves to all the children everywhere. But it was seeing how many people there were all the way around the pitch and how diligent they were being at stopping at every single person that wanted a picture, every single person that wanted an autograph, every single person that wanted to stop and talk to them, all the way across the south stand and behind the goal as well. So, first of all, what an absolutely amazing effort that is from the players. And I think that really shows because you hear so much in the men's game about how they all just walk off and some of them can't even bother to clap. I fully appreciate 70,000 people is a lot of autographs to sign, so it would be quite tricky and the stewarding would be a lot harder. But that was the first thing. And then as we went out, I saw quite a few of them as well again, and I sort of hung around just really taking in the vibes, to be honest with you, and sort of seeing how it was feeling. Wanted to catch a little bit of the body language as well. We're going to be saying goodbye to Jackie. Is this the last time we see on her? That sort of thing. We'll call it research. It was research. There was no point where I was really asking for selfies, apart from 5. But no, it was really good, and I think it's such a big thing actually. The fact that they stay behind, that they're willing to sign these autographs, take the selfies, because that's how they're going to grow the game. I think that's how the fact that they can like whether they be little girls or little boys, the fact they've got these role models that they can look up to, and the fact they have that closeness with them. You know, I know that you often see it when Ronaldo walks up and there's a little kid and they're like, oh my goodness, look at you. It's exactly the same thing here for these girls and these boys. But what's great is that they're accessible. And so because of that, they're role models that I think are so much easier to follow and to support and to get behind, because they're role models and they're doing something brilliant and they're on the telly. But let's be honest, they're just like all of us. You know, there's no difference there. You can see their parents, and that I think is way more powerful than someone on 500 grand a week who's not really living in the same world that we're living in. So fair play to them. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and they stopped for every single person. So
I think
amazing.
so many people would agree with what you just said there, 100%. Yeah, and I want to shout out Mary Earps as well, because the last player that I actually saw when we walked back from the pub, she was still there, and she had like a little family coming up to her. I think we was meeting you at the time there, Barry, at the end, and I heard Mary say, "Oh, this is the second time I've had a photo taken with you."
Yeah.
So only she got like around once.
To be fair, she was like a rabbit, a rat up a drain pipe when it was coming out. But I think that's more because she's got, you know, a few people that are hanging around wanting the shirt, and she's like, "No, next week, not now." Bless her. So
of all those people that was there as well, she still remembered who, you know, the faces, and you know, it was great to see. Once it really was, and yeah, coming back with some more gloves on the pitch to hand those out. So she's been doing throughout the whole season, you know, giving gloves away. But now she's, you know, on that final day, she gave out a lot more than just one pair. Jamie,
it's not really the time of the year for gloves, is it? To be honest,
not woolly ones at least. Jamie, you was at the game as well. You obviously experienced all this as well. What were your thoughts on what you saw at the end of the game?
Sort of just echoing what we've just heard, really. Mark Skinner said after the game at Old Trafford that one of the things that's special about women's football is that you feel like you can touch it because the players are so accessible, because they're so willing to give up their time to sign autographs, to do pictures after not just special games, but pretty much every game. Obviously, with it being the last home game of the season, there was more people. I think it was the second biggest crowd at Lee this season at that match. And yeah, so noticing as well, it's not just the players, the manager as well. So he was out there for around an hour after the match finished, making sure that he spoke to every single last person, you know, took pictures and really sort of made people feel welcome and included. You know, like he had a post-match press conference with me that he was quite a bit late for, but you know, he apologized for that, but actually he's not really sorry because he wanted to be out there with people. Yeah. You know, and that's such a big side of it. And I asked him about that, and he said it's, you know, it's a really special and important relationship with the fans, and it's not just a United thing, because you'll see the same thing at Arsenal and Chelsea and City and wherever, and it's something that's quite unique to the women's game. Obviously, it's not really feasible with the men, but sometimes it does happen. But you know, it's something that the women's players have, and they do. But actually, it's as you say before, it's gonna to step up in the future.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out that as well. I mean, Skinner, from his very first game, where we saw him pre-season at Glasgow, he came right over to us then, and obviously gave a little speech to us. He didn't know any of us back then, you know. It was the first time he met us, and he is very approachable. He does listen to the fans, what we have to say, whether or not he actually does anything that we kind of request, especially tactics-wise. I think that's possibly a little naive of us to think that, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't care and he doesn't listen. And you know, I think, you know, we have spoke to him pretty much after every game this season, home and away. You know, gave him a birthday card at the where was it Arsenal away cup game? I think we waited in the chucking down away just to give him a birthday card, and it was obviously chuffed with that. So yeah, just regards to Skinner after the game, he's always there just to listen to us and say a few words to us, and it doesn't go unnoticed. It really doesn't. And
I think when you're talking about being supporters, that's the entire point of it, isn't it? When they can look up and they see people that they recognise week in, week out, that's our job. That's what we're there for. So when they can see that, it almost, you would hope, gives them that little bit more of a push to go, oh, we've got to do this for them as well. So, you know, that's literally why we're there, and you know, why we're so loud and doing what we're doing. That's the whole point, trying to push them along. it's not just about us being entertained. No.
Works both ways. I absolutely agree. Yeah. Emma, what was it like at the home game that you went to yesterday? Obviously, it was a good atmosphere, I'm sure, winning 6-0. Obviously, put everything in your own hands going into the final game of the season. But how about like after the game?
Yeah, after the game, it was a little bit different for us, given that obviously we honoured KB. There was about a 10-minute sort of bit of thanks, from the team, from the players, the manager, and yeah, Gavin spoke as well, which was really nice, and just about her journey. And obviously, KB gave a few words to the fans. And yeah, it was really nice, to be honest. I got a little bit emotional, to be fair, because a player that's been with you for so long, to reflect on a career that a player like KB's had is it's amazing what she's done. So not just for club but internationally, and the women's game on a whole, she's a real champion. She champions the game. She wants the best for the game, and hopefully she wants to continue doing that. So I don't know what sort of capacity that looks like. I know she does. Obviously, she's an ambassador for the Manchester FA. So yeah, I'm sure we'll still see and hear a lot more of her. But yeah, it was really nice, to be fair. And some of the players went round, and a lot of the attention was around KB, but she was all up for it. She made her way around to pretty much everyone. A few of the players did stay out, but it was just nice, really, just to see to round off the home game with such a sort of somber but nice kind of tribute to KB, really. Obviously we played on a weeknight, I think, obviously because the game had been postponed, it had been moved, so I don't think the attendance was perhaps going to be as good as what it would have been had it had been playing at the weekend. But it's just one of those things, unfortunately. Clashed obviously with the Champions League as well. So yeah, it was a good night.
Yeah, well, it was for you.
Yeah.
It was for you.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's kind of what we expected, to be honest. But you talk a little bit about getting a little bit sentimental there and filling up. I mean, when we saw Skinner and his little one come onto the pitch, I thought that was a nice touch. Watching his child just like kick a ball, or kick a bottle, actually, I think it was. But yeah, that was nice. He obviously gave a speech with her in his arms as well, which was nice to see. Just before we move on, I do just want to ask maybe Jamie's opinion on this, and by all means, Emma, Barry, jump in afterwards. There is always a fear in the women's fan base that we may lose this closeness, and I think we kind of saw that during COVID. We wasn't allowed to get as close to them, wasn't really able to take selfies. Jamie, do you ever worry that as the women's football does grow, that we will kind of lose any of this, or do you think this is just part of it and the governing body just need to kind of act accordingly when the fan base does tend to grow?
I would say it's probably a little bit of both. That it's always going to be ingrained in it, but at the same time, as numbers grow, if there's say 10,000 fans in the stadium as opposed to 2.5, there's going to be a lot more people that are waiting for pictures and that kind of thing, and it's suddenly a much bigger ask on the players to give up, say, an hour of their time as opposed to 10-15 minutes. So there's always going to be that side of it. You want it to get to that point where there are tens of thousands of people in stadiums every time, but there will be then concessions, and I guess then it's just about understanding. I mean, people that come to it later won't have experienced it like you do, I suppose, and they won't know any different, perhaps. But I think I don't see it being possible that it could stay this way forever. But it's all about finding the balance, I would guess.
I suppose there's like an element of it where it becomes a health and safety sort of thing as well. I mean, I hate to be like a party people. I love that we have such accessibility, but when you're looking at the crowds and growing the game and attendances, eventually there's going to become a point where it's not going to be that well managed, because it'll just get it kind of gets out of hand in a bit of a free for all, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it is. It's just logistics. That's all it is. It's just how you can do it logistically, safely and fairly. I mean, Jamie's mentioned about there being 10,000 people at taken out. There were 2,500 there at the weekend, and Skinner was out there for an hour. So you're looking at like 4 hours if they were all allowed to stand around and get done. Perhaps instead of having singing sections, you have sign-in sections. So they can just do that particular bit, and you get on the sign-in section, and then you can get, like VIP tickets type thing. I don't know. I think it'll always be there, like you say. But as it grows, it's just the logistics. You can't, if you said for health and safety, you can't have 10,000 people hanging around hours after the game. And even as you come out, you look at what they do at Old Trafford. They've got a particular bit that's well away from the buses, and they have the opportunity to come over. If you had 10,000 people at Leeds Sports Village, you'd have to have the same sort of thing where there's that distance between the fans and them, because ultimately, the more it grows, the more chance there is that you can have someone who spoils it for everybody, and that's where the problem arises, I think. But I think deep down, they'll always want to have that part of it, because, for women it is very much about growing the game and, trying to get it to that level that the men also have as well. So 100% something I want to do.
I'm going to just mention a couple of comments. Our sports chatterbox said that she spoke to Jackie and she was really pleased when she said that she was going to LSV. There's only one question that I would have asked Jackie, to be honest, at the end of the season. And I think it's what everyone wants to know. But yeah, she didn't give anything away, really.
I can answer that. She prefers Burger King to McDonald's.
Nah, I never go for Burger King over McDonald's. Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see you, Charlie. And I'll see you on Sunday for the game itself. We'll move on. We'll move on a little bit. And Barry, I know you've got an interesting topic that we can bring into the show round about now, and we can continue the conversation afterwards as well. So, yeah, do you want to introduce it?
I never like the pressure that goes in when you give it the old, "He's got an interesting topic." It's for the people to decide. But it was a very simple one, really. I was sort of scratching my head thinking what would be an interesting sort of challenge. And you see it quite a lot on the Monday Night Football, and you often get Carragher and Neville coming to blows. So I thought if we were going to have shonsence and nonsense, we might want to see who's going to make it and which positions. Who would, if City were buying people, if they could have anyone from our team, who would they take that they think could walk into their team and would get a starting 11 spot? And the same for us. Who would we want to take if we could do it? So it's a bit like the NFL draft. Pick someone. Who would you steal? So there we go.
These drafts things.
I haven't got a clue either. You just pick someone and that'll do. I'll have him.
There's people in our friendship group that know American sports a lot more than I do. But am I right in thinking that the team who finishes bottom always gets the first pick of certain sports? I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
Barry,
One then.
Oh, she panted up there.
Oh, see?
Oh,
gloves are off now. Ref, low blow. Low blow.
Go on then, Barry. Have we got anyone in mind? Who would you like to see at United?
Do you know, the one that stood out for me, and it really came to the fore during the England matches, was Lauren Hebb. Because the ability that she has got to just cross that ball and put it exactly where you want that to be, just second to none. I think if we could do that, you get people like Senior Bruin and Alessia Russo. We've seen their heading ability, Martha Thomas. So for me, if I was picking someone straight away, that would be my number one. I'd pick Lauren Hebb. She can score. She's good with her feet. She dribbles down the side, puts the ball in the box. She's clever, thinks about what she's doing. So if I was stealing someone and I had to pick a number one pick, that's who I'd have, Lauren Hebb.
I think that's an interesting one as well, Barry, because not just because of how good she is, but you have a look in our starting 11. You know that we've got a good centre forward. You know that we've got at least one good wide player, but have we got two that's nailed down week in, week out? And we probably haven't, have we? So, that would definitely, in a hypothetical world, be a very good signing for us. Emma, who kind of jumps out for yourself?
You see, I've got three players at the moment that it depends which way you're looking at it, you see, because if you're saying I need to pick somebody to replace a player that's in the squad at the moment, I'm going to find that really hard, to be fair. Yeah. But for me, I've really enjoyed watching Tooney again this season. I think this season in particular, I think she's really shone for United, along with Russo as well. But for me, I think Honor I think she's been really good, consistent throughout, and been an integral part of your side this season. And I think I would probably choose her ahead of Bronze at the moment, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've got like a bit of a starting 11 in front of me, but let me hear maybe like Jamie's idea of who he would like to kind of, obviously being a Man United correspondent. Is there anyone from City that you would like to join United? And then maybe we can try and, I say, agree on the starting 11 between us. I don't think we'll ever do that, but maybe it'll be a bit of fun to kind of throw out a few names. So Jamie, just maybe pick one or two players that stood out for you this season for City that you'd like to see join United.
Well, I do know that Mark is targeting a winger, so I won't say Lauren Hemp again, but there's that. But midfield, I would say, would be where I'd look at, and the two that stand out for different reasons would be, one would be Caroline Weir. She may well be off anyway, we don't know. Chances are she could be, because she's got that sort of level of creativity and more of a deeper role, a bit more versatile than perhaps an L2, who's more maybe like a number 10.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be Georgia Stanway as well, because she's got a bit of everything. She's got the creativity, the ability to get around, but she's also got a bit of bite. And I know that we saw that in the derby earlier this year, she planted her studs on Leah Gordon's thigh, but you need that kind of grit sometimes, and she's got that sort of extra edge to her. So those two would be the City players that I think would be the ones that I would choose anyway, apart from Lauren Hemp.
I kind of feel Stanway's become a little bit more disciplined since that game, to be fair. Yeah, I think she's learned a few lessons from that one, to be honest. But she definitely has got that to her game. Yeah, definitely.
I agree. No, I was going to say, Dave, if I could just throw mine into the mix, it's a player that we was kind of hoping that would join us at the start of this season, Alana Kennedy. I don't know if, Emma, you feel as hot, obviously you watch a week in, week out, but you look at like our centre-back situation at the moment, if I'm trying to do it tactical here, I think we've got two very good centre-backs, and I think we've got two very good kind of like reserve centre-backs. But I think Kennedy could probably fight for that number, the starting 11 place at United. Barry, do you want to jump in on maybe that one?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Kennedy's been quite good. I noticed you were playing Greenwood centre-back in the last game, which is interesting. She was always left back, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's played a centre-back pretty much all season, really, and she's made that her own. I think she's been, to be fair, Alex has been one of our most consistent players this season, and I think that she's getting that recognition for how well she's performed. I think that partnership with Alana has been, especially in the second half of the season, has been instrumental. Alana, I think it took her a while to get into the season, but now she's, this second half since December, since coming back from the winter break, she's been fantastic. And I think, to be honest, when Steph is ready to come back, she's going to find it hard to get back. Because they've been brilliant as a centre-back pair and the pair of them. So, yeah, really consistent and solid.
Yeah.
So, come on, let's get this starting 11 then, shall we? So, gloves are off. Who's the goalie going to be? Is it Roebuck or is it Ertz?
Are we doing this based on this season's form? Are we going to base it on...
I think at the moment, who would be your top 11? Yeah.
Okay, then. So,
I think so.
Okay. Well, I think this is one where I have gone United. I have gone Mary, and it wasn't easy, but I do think on this season, Mary's done hardly anything wrong. She's played a lot of games. She's done well for Lionesses as well. So I have put Mary in there.
I would. I think if you happen to go there, and we're being fair and honest about it, Ellie was the number one for England for a long time, but Serena's come out now, hasn't she, and said Mary's my number one at the moment. So I think if it's good enough for her, who am I to argue with someone who's got more coaching badges than me?
Well, Emma might.
Yeah, I might. But I think it's a fair shout, given obviously Ellie's she's not had that many games under her belt, given obviously she's been out injured for sort of half the season. So, but I think the games that she's played, I think she's been brilliant. Again, she's another sort of goalkeeper, one of the best in the league that, can't seem to do any wrong. So, yeah, but you can have Mary. I'll give you that.
3-0. But Jamie, would you go with that as well? Is it a clean sweep for Earps in the sticks?
I don't know if he's faster than us.
Oh, he's all frozen. Oh, dear.
He has had a bit of a technical difficulty.
No, he was going to say Ellie, and now I just look like a fool.
Yeah. Clearly, if I just go now, I won't get into trouble. Well, while we're waiting for him to come back, shall we go with fullback situations then?
Shall I make a start on this one?
I think so. Go on, John.
I've definitely gone for Honor, but then I'm willing to concede the other one. I just think Hannah's had a good first season, but I don't think she's at the level of Honor. And if she's not at the level of her, then she's not going to be at the level of potentially Bronze or Stokes, if that's who's been playing the majority of the fullbacks for City. I do think she's settled in well. She has made a couple of mistakes. There's kind of been costly goals, Hannah Blundell, but generally, I think she has come in, and she's a kind of fullback that we need. She's very attacking. She has done arguably better attacking wise than defensive wise. But I can't go choosing Hannah Blundell, ahead of the two City fullbacks. So I have gone for Honor.
Yeah, I'd go Honor as well. On a right back, 100%. She's, for me, the best right back in the league at the moment, 100%. And again, I think if you were sat there going, would I rather have Lucy Bronze or Honor Batcher? I'd say, well, I obviously want both, because that's a great backup to have. But, for me, yeah, Honor would go right back. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Stokes has probably had the better consistency through the season. So I would probably, I'd give away the left back. I think Honor's definitely down right. So yeah, we'll throw that to Jamie quickly then. What would you go with for Earps or Roebuck in goal? And which way would you go, right back, left back? Where does he live?
Sometimes you do have to wait about 8 seconds. Oh, here we go.
These things are live.
Hey.
Sorry, you asking me questions. I'm never the person who has technical difficulties. Suddenly it's all kicked off today.
Yeah, sorry, Jamie. We were just kind of asking who would be your goalkeeper and fullbacks, who kind of sticks out for you in the United and City teams this season.
As a goalkeeper, I would say Mary Earps, because this is an easy one, because they go head-to-head for country, and she's the one that's got the gloves at the moment. Fullback-wise, I'd say maybe one of each, Honor and Demi Stokes, maybe, because I say Blundell started the season pretty well, but she's sort of just been okay for the last sort of few months. And
Brilliant. So Emma, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that. Honor, I think, she's had the better season. And I think Demi, again, you talk about sort of forward thinking. I think we've certainly seen that from Demi again in recent games. She was sort of well involved with a couple of goals recently for City as well, just weaving through defenders. So, yeah, I like to see that in her game, and she has got that sort of to her game as well. So yeah, definitely something I'd like to see.
Absolutely, brilliant. We're on fire at the moment. No arguments so far, but centre backs. I feel like this is where it really comes down to it, because I think there's arguments on both sides here, isn't there? I mean, you look at Mary Earps, who's just celebrated her 10th clean sheet of the season. I'm not convinced there's that many other clubs that have got that many clean sheets going on. Our problem is that we don't have a consistent back two pairing as you guys have managed to have. So obviously yours being the Kennedy Greenwood situation. I look at the ones that I would think for United who I think might possibly stand up to that. Mannion's been superb this season, absolutely amazing. Millie Turner's great as well, but both of them getting long-term injuries earlier on in the season makes it really difficult. Thor's worked really hard all season. She's shown passion. I'd struggle with this one. I don't know. I think I'm going to ask Emma to kick off first and see what she thinks, and see whether I need to go on the defensive, if you'll pardon the pun.
It's hard. I mean, I've always been a bit of an advocate of Mannion. I said to you, like, when she signed for you, and I was good to see her go, and she's got, she's one of those players that I think you was a little bit unsure of, but I think she's got bags of quality, and, she's, reliable. For me, I can't not say Alana, and I can't not say Greenwood. And if I had to choose one, I would put Greenwood ahead of Alana, but that's just me.
Emma, okay. I'll come in and I'll kind of defend you here. I do kind of agree. If Mannion was fully fit throughout the season and she continued the season the way she started the season, I'd put up a fight with Mannion. Millie's obviously been there for a long time. Thor and Diane have done okay, but not to Man City's level, in my opinion. So I think I might have to concede these. I'll definitely put Greenwood in there anyway. The games that I have seen her play, she has done really well, and I'm glad that obviously you mentioned that at the start of the show as well. She's made the role of her own, you said, and I'm glad that she's getting them plaudits. But yeah, I'll probably have to go with Kennedy, just purely because we've got injuries, haven't we? If Mannion wasn't injured, I'm pretty sure I would have said Mannion on that one.
I think you could definitely make a case for Mannion.
Yeah. Cool.
So it sounds like we would have gone Mannion and Greenwood. I think I have to go with the ARP, but I'll go Kennedy Greenwood as well, just because there's been that consistency there. But Jamie, as the resident neutral, which way are you going?
I mean, I'm not really a neutral, but for the purpose of this, I'll be a neutral. But I would agree with you. It's very difficult for me to leave Millie Turner out because, and this is a bit of a story, that I'm having a baby girl very soon, and she's being named after Millie Turner.
Hey.
That's cute.
Nice.
But she's obviously not played very much this season for various reasons. So I'd probably toe the line and agree with both of you there in that sense.
What I would say is if you come up to me and said, like, at the start of this season or start of next season, who would your centre pairing be? Then it might be a different question, a different answer. I might say, look, I prefer Millie and Mannion over Greenwood and Kennedy. But I think at this moment in time, I think we have to be a bit fair and to say, look, City's done fantastic in the last 5 months, and unfortunately, our best players have been injured.
Absolutely. So, just to respond to Mr. Greaves, I don't know if you can pop it up on the screen there, Tech Wizard, but we're talking about players across the whole season. So, it's not that they're necessarily fully fit now, but it's how they performed over the whole season. So, it means that as we move into our midfield three, I mean, we've got so many midfielders, I wouldn't know which one to pick. We've got 9 or so that we could choose from. This is ridiculous. So, bearing in mind, I think, for me, Stanway is a given. I don't know how you have a midfield that involves these two teams and you don't stick Georgia Stanway. I don't get that. Equally, I don't think you have a midfield that doesn't have Ella Toon in it, because that would be crazy. So then it comes down to, where do you put it? Are you going to go for Weir? She's caused us so much heartache. She makes me want to cry, shout, swear, all those things. Do I want that person in my team? Not really. I'm not sure I like you that much. Kira Walsh, same thing, not so sure. I like Vilda Borisa. I like her song. She's a great player. Jackie Gronan. Where do I go with this one? I've got to fit all these players into one spot. So I'm going to say those two for definite, Stanway and Toon. And then I think I'm going to go for what I consider to be the hardest working midfielder that I've seen this season. I'm going to go for the goal scorer extraordinaire from corners, Mademoiselle Katie Zeller. Because what more do you want than a set piece specialist like that? So they're my 3. Bring it on. What we got? What you say?
Go on, Emma. I'll let you kind of even it up a little bit there because it's 2-1 United at the moment. So
it is really hard, to be honest. I can't. I just want to fix everything.
Hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard. Midfield's hard. I think Georgia Stanway has really come on a lot this season. I think she's added so much more to a game, because obviously Stanway, she's sort of got a bit of a rep for scoring them sort of wonder goals and everything like that, but she's just added so much more in terms of her attack, her creativeness, and she reads the game really well, and she can just pick those sort of passes out just to break back lines. And I've kind of enjoyed watching her this season. Definitely think she's got a case. Where obviously she just brings those sort of moments of brilliance that just make oppositions cry, which I love. I can't imagine Kira not being in there either. She's sort of player that plays beyond her years, and she's so intelligent. But then, like you say, you've got so many really difficult good players to pick from. I just can't do it. I'm just going to sell those three. I can't choose a United player, but for those sort of three players that have just.
So you would stick with Stanway, Walsh, and Weir?
Yeah, definitely.
Even though you said you'd take Tooney. Oh,
I know, but
you lie.
I would put Tooney. I'd put Tooney more up front.
Okay, interesting. All right.
False 9.
Yeah.
Go on, Jamie. What are your thoughts on this one? Then I'll shout out mine.
On the midfield, I've already mentioned Weir and Stanway, so I'd probably choose them. It's interesting that Barry, said Katie Zellum, because I know that she divides opinion quite a lot. Some people seem to really love her. Some people are a bit more indifferent, or maybe even dislike her. I don't know, but I would choose Stanway, Weir, and Ella Toon. I mean, it's quite an attacking midfield. You wouldn't have a lot of defensive shielding going on, but
that's why I can't not include Walsh in there.
I think I did put Zellum down first, but then I scribbled it out and put Tooney, because I think maybe over the course of the whole season, this will obviously cause a debate, but I do think over the course of the season, Zellum's had a better season than Tooney. I think Tooney started off the season amazingly well, up until Christmas, and then after Christmas, it's kind of slipped away a little bit. So I was tempted to put Katie in there. However, I'm still going to put Tooney in there, because I think in a midfield three, I just think Tooney has to play. So I'll put Tooney, Stanway, and then I was deciding Weir or Walsh. So I'm going to go Walsh just to be a little bit different. But for me, I think it's very hard to choose anyone apart from Stanway and Tooney. Then I think the other one can be pretty much anyone. Jackie's obviously been injured, so I'm not saying that, again, this is what's affecting United plays for me at the moment. She's been injured, so I couldn't choose to have her. Vilda Barisa has done well when she's played, but again, she's not played that much. Hayley Ladd was an option. And I might have probably done her a little bit of, bad service there, because, Barry, you mentioned the amount of clean sheets or lack of goals that we've conceded throughout the season, which is correct. I think we've only conceded like 18 goals in the league this season. A lot of that is down to Hayley Ladd's role, so maybe, I should have given her a bit of a shout out. But no, for me, I think it's Stanway, Tooney, and I'm going to go Walsh.
Okay, so vote-wise there, we've got a Stanway for sure. She got, all four of us went that. Tooney got 3, and then Walsh and Weir got 2. So it'll be one of those, with the other one sub at the moment. But, I mean, just to pick up on what Jamie said, the reason I'd go for Zellum is because there's clearly something that's seen there. And I think as fans, we're too quick sometimes to just sit there and go, well, this isn't what I'm seeing on the pitch. Or you're not necessarily the most glamorous of players because you're not doing all these tricks and flicks and all these sorts of things. But it's what she does offer. She's clearly well liked amongst the team. She works exceptionally hard. You can see the effort she puts in with a dead ball situation. All of those things that she does, and just the way that she is, just her general demeanour. She's always trying to look forward for a pass. She's never one of those that's knocking it back. She's trying to drive the people forward. And I noticed that most against Aston Villa. You could see that everything she was trying to do was going forward, but it was stopping usually at the side. So, I just think she's got a lot there. So I wouldn't say, what's the word that they use nowadays, these young ones? I wouldn't say I'm a Katie Zellum stan, but I would absolutely say that I just think she deserves a bit of recognition. I wanted to pick her for one of my two players of the season, but I couldn't. So hopefully that makes sense. And then that leaves us with our front three. I've already said Lauren Hemp. I'd buy her immediately if I had the window cleaner's money. So that would be my number one. For me, you don't have a starting lineup that doesn't have Alessia Russo. Just don't. That woman is absolutely out of this world, and she is going to be amazing. Which then just leaves you, once again, with the similar sort of arguments we just had. Leah Galton has been superb. Martha Thomas, absolutely brilliant. We can't put Bruni on because she's not had enough there. Unfortunately, it can't be #Hansen in today because #Hansen has not been in. So then that leaves you with Shaw and Raso, really, I suppose, would be the main ones. Or Ellen White. We'll rule her out immediately. We're not putting Ellen White in my front three, even though she winds me up again because she's always in the right place. I think because I've got Russo in the middle, I'm stuck between Raso and Galton. And I don't think I've got any option other than to go Galton because I'm a Man United fan at the end of the day. But it would be close. So there me. Hemp, Russo, Galton.
Okay. I've got two, but then I saw some stats just a couple of days ago. I think Natalie tagged me in them about how well Buddy Shaw's done lately. Now at the start of the season, I was thinking, not great. It hasn't really impressed me that much. But I've seen some of the amount of goals that she's scoring. So if you want like a front three, I'm seeing how much Buddy's scoring lately, and I'm seeing our players not scoring as much. Martha Thomas, fantastic work rate. I think has done really well for the first season. Leah Galton, bit of up and down season. I think if this was last season, I remember doing a very similar show with Emma last season. Emma Galton. So Leah Galton is 100% in, but unfortunately, I think this season, if I'm going to try and keep this fair, I'd go Russo, Hemp, and I'll probably go for Shaw, just based on goal scoring stats. I don't know if you would do anything slightly different up front. If I were just going to choose Russo, I don't know if you had like two other strikers in mind instead of Bunny Shaw. You've obviously seen a bit more of her than I have this season.
Yeah, I think, again, another player that's probably just took a little bit longer to find a bit of form. But, yeah, I mean, she adds so much physicality to the squad, Bunny. Two different sort of strikers, really, I suppose, if you're comparing them. Ellen White and Buddy Shaw, very different. Obviously, Ellen will press and put pressure on the back line, put pressure on the keeper. Again, and Buddy's again with the physicality. She can beat a marker. She's got strength, and she can work wonders in the box, really, which is what we've lacked. Beginning of the season, we really lacked sort of that final finish, and she's really brought that and added it to the squad in recent games. So yeah, she's really good to watch, and I think next season is going to be a big season for her. It's when I look at sort of a front three, like I said, I'd like to see Tooney in there. From watching her at City and to see how far she's come along and how she's grown as a player, developed as a player. She's one that I like to keep a bit of a watchful eye on, and I think she has had a great season. I love Galton, we've said before, John. I really enjoy watching her. I would love to see what she could, if she was interested in obviously doing the international, what sort of a call up to the England squad would look like with her in it. I really would. But obviously I don't know if that is something we hopefully see from her in the future. But I can't obviously overlook Hemp. I think she's an outstanding player. I'm scared at what kind of quality player she's going to be in like 3-4 years time. She just keeps getting better and better and better. and Russo, you know, like you say, she's definitely in with a shout. She's been really sort of, again, integral to United. Most of the good stuff that United have produced this season, a lot of it's come through her. So, yeah, definitely in with a shout as well.
So which three have we gone with?
Hemp, yeah, I'm going to say Hemp, Russo, and then Tooney in the middle.
Okay. Over to you, young Jamie.
This is quite a difficult one, actually, because I'm not thrilled by the right flank on either team. I don't know if that's just me. I think there's maybe a bit of an imbalance, so we might have to shuffle some people around and shove some square pegs in round holes. But Russo for absolute sure, because I think this season has been, I'm not going to say it's been a surprise, but do you know what I mean? There was an element of, she was there last season, she got injured, spent most of the rest of the season out, and then nobody really knew what to expect. And because she didn't start this season in the team, which I know was a deliberate decision from the staff to sort of hold her back just to let her settle in more gently, nobody sort of really knew what was going to happen. And then she's done it in spurts, I would say. She did it around November, December, and then maybe February, March, after Signe Bruun came in, maybe the competition there sort of just kicked her on a little bit more. So, you know, she's the top scoring English player in the league in a home Euros year. So I feel like that's all the evidence that you need to go for her as that one. I would say Lauren Hemp, yeah, easy, because she's so good. And then the other side, I don't know, maybe you force either Hemp onto the right, or you put Leah Golson on the right and maybe have her cut in, but she's very good on the outside. So, or I completely change my choice and go Ella Toon and have her in the team twice because I voted for her for Footballer of the Year. Maybe put somebody else in midfield, but yeah. So I would just go Russo, Hemp, and Galton just for ease there, rather than have to make too many changes.
There we go. Right. Well done. I'm going to leave John to ask a little question of Jamie that he's got there, whilst I populate what we've decided. And I'll bang it in the chat.
Thanks for that, Barry. It's always fun to do that. I think I was quite honest there as well. I think I chose about 4 United players. So
we were very sensible children. Well done.
Yeah, very good, very good. I just want to open up a conversation, and it's basically something along the lines of, if we don't get, I say we, United, if we don't get Champions League this year now, will people start seeing it as a failure, even though, and will they start forgetting about all the success that we have had? We've took it to the last game of the season. Me and Barry was talking about this, I think, before we went on air, which is a massive achievement. I do think that there will be fans who kind of forgot what our ambitions was at the start of the season, realistic aims. And I do mention this, obviously doing 3 or 4 shows a week, this conversation does come up every now and again. But as like Man United fans, have we kind of moved the goalposts throughout the season because we've done so well at the start of the season? I just want to kind of bring your thoughts in on this, Jamie, because I think we've had a fantastic season just to get us to this point. We've had a lot of changes at the club, personnel-wise and manager-wise. We haven't got an experienced team. I just think that we've kind of probably hit our kind of level at the moment. Well, I'll just bring you in, Jamie.
I would absolutely totally agree with that. I think it's very easy to look back and say, because the target is Champions League football, to say that because, 4th is more than likely now going to happen, that it's a failure. But I absolutely don't think it is, because if you look at everything within context, the prediction that I made at the start of the season was that United would have a transition year, maybe slip back into 5th, because obviously everybody thought Everton was going to do something more than they actually did. That didn't happen. But if you look at last summer, there was a lot of sort of angst around the club in April, May. With Katie Stoney resigning, there was supposed things going on behind the scenes where she was frustrated. She resigned in early May. The new manager wasn't then appointed till the very end of July. United didn't make the first signing until the 20th of July, which they obviously would have known that Mark Skinner was coming in at that point, even though he wasn't announced for another week or so. But if you look at Chelsea and Arsenal, their recruitment, they both made signings in May. City made 2 signings in June. So these teams were like well on their way to what they were trying to achieve. United had a delayed start, and then once Skinner did come in, you've got the Olympics, and you've got a few more players out of action then, taking him out of preparations. And then to actually achieve what they have achieved, and there's still going to be transition because he's a manager that's got he's got his own ideas that are very particular. He wants to have, he needs to sort of educate the players on his way of thinking, and he said that a few times afterwards, after games, where he talks about removing the label is one of his favorite phrases in terms of promoting fluidity in the match, so that you've got, if a player's not pinned down to a particular position, they're fluid. They'll go to the right, to the left, center, drop deep, go forward. He wants everybody to be free and to be able to play in his system, and that's going to take time. And I think we've learned maybe sort of that's not really coming until maybe about March, when there was in a really good run of form, especially the attacking players, the front four, because that hadn't really taken shape before then. So you've got all these various factors that's going to take time. And then if you look at the competition, it's I wouldn't say it's naive to think that you just come in and storm a league only a couple of years in. This is literally United's second full season as a top flight professional club. You look at, compared to Arsenal have been one of the best teams in the country for 30 years. Chelsea have been building what they've been building for 10 years. City, albeit came slightly later, had a lot of money invested. They've still been going at it for 8 or 9 years. And United have been doing it for 4 and only 2 as a WSL club. So this is something that Mark said before the last game. There is a point where you have to realise that you are where you are. And actually, within context, it is an achievement. And then still, if you look back at individual games this season, so United, this is an important factor, as maybe I should point out, was that Skinner said that it's not about falling short, it's about where you can improve. So that's kind of his mentality as well, that it's not about looking at what you've done wrong, it's about looking at the fine tuning, and that's all it really is. Because I'm just going to look at some individual games. There's been 6 matches this season that United have drawn that they probably could have won. And that's 12 extra points, and United are 11 points off Chelsea. So that's the kind of fine margins that it is. If you look at the specific games, it was Tottenham, Everton, West Ham. They conceded late goals to draw 1-1. Tottenham and West Ham, they were both in stoppage time. That's potentially 6 points that were very gettable. If you look back at maybe City and Arsenal, those draws, out of context, you would say those are good results regardless, because you wouldn't necessarily expect to beat either of those teams. But they conceded a late equaliser against City, who only had 10 players. They conceded a late equaliser against Arsenal, having missed a really good chance to go 2-0 up. And then again, it's more about fine margins, because that's another 4 points. And then against Villa, 0-0, dominated most of the game, should have won 2 or 3-0, and didn't. So there's your 12 points that, yes, it's naive to say that you could, you win every game, you're going to be top of the league. Of course, not everybody's going to do that. But up to 12 extra points were lost in very small moments. And that is the difference between United being 4th and United potentially being top. If you took that and just said, if you ignored the City and Arsenal results and just said 8 points, United would be well clear of City before this last match of the season. So it's not a disaster. It's just about fine tuning. And then you look back and you think it's the first year of what should have been a transition year, and what probably still is a transition year. They've maybe papered over some cracks by actually being close to the top 3 as they are, because it's not a top 3 and then everybody else. It's a top 4, because United are like right in that 3. Last season, they were 15 points clear of 5th place. This season, they're 13 points clear of 5th place. So it's not, they're very much in the top 4 rather than it being a top 3 and then everybody else. So United have bridged that gap already, and then it's just about taking that extra step into the 3 to break it up. Obviously, City had a really poor start to the season that has made this race go all the way to the end. But last year, Arsenal had a bit of a wobble. Arsenal have had a bit of a wobble this year as well. Chelsea don't seem quite as invincible as they were. They've scraped a few. I think they've won 1-0 4 times this season, and twice in the last 5 or 6 matches. So there is weakness there as well. And I think because you've got the professionalism is 4 years deep now, maybe in the WSL. The gaps are getting smaller between the top and the bottom. You see the fact that Birmingham beat Arsenal and nobody else, which is weird, but that kind of thing can happen. And, you know, Mark Skinner said a few weeks ago that he used to have matches in this league where if you are a Birmingham or another club, you might go to Chelsea away and know before you started that you're going to lose, and you might lose heavily. But that doesn't exist anymore. And just to bring it back around to United, being at that top level, other clubs see United the way that they see Chelsea and Arsenal and City now, because they will set up to defend as Aston Villa did, as Brighton did just in the last few games. And they know that. And then the onus is on Skinner and his staff and his players to sort of pick that up to another level to make sure that they're not frustrated by an Aston Villa who are sitting deep with 5 at the back and 4 in midfield. So to suggest that United have failed this season, I think would be wrong. It's not been as good as it perhaps could have been, but the fact that it's been so close is also a massive positive.
Do you want to jump in, Barry?
Yes, sorry. So I think, listen, the way you work out if something's positive at the end of a season is, do you walk in at the end of it, in the very last game of that season, having won something or still fighting for something? And Manchester United are still fighting for something. Now, don't get me wrong, we're very much on the underdog side of it, but we're fighting for something. We've been fighting for it all year. And I think Jamie's just articulated it so well that we could be out of sight. We actually could be. This could not even be a discussion. And should we have taken advantage of the slow start that City had? Absolutely. But we did. That was the whole point. It's not so much that's been the problem. It's, as I've said before, we've just sort of mirrored each other's seasons. They had the injuries at the start of the season, so they had their troubles then. We had our injuries towards the end of the season, and we found it more difficult. And I think the key comes into what Jamie said there. It is about those draws. We have drawn more games than anybody else in WSL this season, with the exception of West Ham. 6 of them. When you look at the top 3, they've drawn 8 games altogether as a top 3, 4 for Arsenal, but they've only lost 1. So that's where the imbalance comes in for us. And as we said, they're silly, tiny little things. This was never a case Skinner said last week, it was never a case that we've been outplayed. We were in control of it. But then silly things have happened. The Arsenal game, we switched off once. If we hadn't switched off once and let that ball go straight through the middle, that's 3 points rather than 1. If we didn't have a miscommunication at the back at Everton, that's 3 points instead of 1. If we didn't concede that free kick at the far post, defending as if people are trying to defend the Katie Zellum corner, that would have been 3 points instead of 1. And all of a sudden, just those 3, which are the ones that stick in my throat the most, like West Ham, that one there at the end, conceding that one, and then all of a sudden you're in a title challenge. And then you get these people in the comments, people everywhere going, but we're just not that good enough. No, we are. We are that good enough. We are that close. And this is the problem. I think we do ourselves down way too much. We've got to also understand that we are crashing the party. Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, they were the mob bosses. It's like the Godfather. They're all there. They're all happy. They've got their 3 cities. Everything's wonderful. Hang on a minute. Who's this coming down here? And all of a sudden, it's Manchester United. Here we go. And the next thing you know, we're trying to spoil their fun. That's why they don't like us. Because, hang on, this isn't how it is. You're all right when you're in the men's game, holding on to everything and winning all the stuff there, but we don't want that in our nice women's game now. No. You back off. You're not allowed to have that. But in 4 years, this is what we've achieved. We've never finished any higher or any lower than 4th in the table. And I think for me, the thing that separates those top 3 from us, that tiny little bit, is when you look at the form table. I think I counted Manchester City have won their last, including Cup, 15 games in a row. And when you look at ours, I'm looking at the form table now. Chelsea have won their last 5, Arsenal won their last 5, City have won their last 5. We've got 3 ticks and 2 draws. And then everybody below us is all red crosses. So that's your problem. Those tiny little draws, and that comes down to the experience as well. Having those players that are experienced winners that know what it is to do that and don't freeze in the big moments and don't panic. and that's the drama. West Ham, we allowed them to get back in on us, but it's Aston Villa. That's what I said earlier on to you. Aston Villa was the moment for me. That was when we slipped, we faltered, and that was the moment when City took it over. Make no mistake about it, they go into this weekend 100% the favourites. They should finish third, but pressure's on them because they know they have to get at least a draw. They have to, because when we've beaten Chelsea 10-0, our goal difference will be better than theirs. So they've got to do better than the draw.
I'm conscious of time. I'll let Emma have a final say shortly. I just want to ask the people in the comments, everyone who's saying that this season's been a failure, just out of curiosity, where did you think we was going to come at the start of the season? Did you honestly think we was going to be third? I thought we was going to be fourth, challenging for third. That's where I thought we were going to be with everything that's happened. So if you want to put your comments in there, it'll be interesting to see. And Emma, just finishing off for yourself, because we could continue this all day long about United and City. For me, I think Barry's already mentioned it. The season's been flipped. We had the opening 11 games. We was ahead there, and obviously you've dominated the last 11 games roughly. How can you see this last final weekend panning out?
I think I've just got to say I think United fans are being a little bit hard on themselves. I think you have to look at it in the kind of context that Jamie's said there, basically. I think you've all got the foundations. I think you just need to get a little bit more experience. I think that would be quite enough. I think Mark needs to put his little stamp on the team. I think he's almost inherited a team. And I think, Jamie said, he's not really had all that much time to be able to come in and work with the team before the start of the season. And I think when you look at it in that way, it's been a relatively good season. Look, it's the last day of the season. Would I have thought United could have pushed us to the last day of the season fighting for top three? No, that's an improvement on last season. And I think credit where credit's due for that, to be honest. I expect us to go out and get the result against Reading. They're a tough side. Look at Birmingham. They held us to half-time and, they made it difficult for us. But it was inevitable that at some point Birmingham would have to come out and try and get something out of the game. And when they did, obviously, we were able to get something out, get a goal, and then it kind of opened up for us. I kind of expect the Reading game to be quite similar, to be honest, and a relatively comfortable win, I think.
Just before I let Barry close the show, I'm just seeing all these comments and I want to kind of have a go back, and I'm sure Barry you do as well, and we need to do a separate show on this as well. But for me, I'm not looking at where he was at Christmas, because if that's the case, if Tottenham had a bad season then, because at one point Tottenham was above everyone and they was third, so just because they're not third now, they failed. It's a 22 game season for a reason. So yeah, we might have been 6 points clear. I agree, Sangan. We might have let it slip, but it's not based over 11, 15 games, is it? It's based over a 22 game season. You win some, you lose some. City lost some, won some. It's just completely reversed, hasn't it? So that's pretty much where I stand, and we do need to do a separate show on it where we can really get into a lot more detail and get into the questions and people's comments as well. Well, go on, Barry. Would you like to end the show, mate?
Well, it was just a couple of things. I just read through a couple of the comments that were coming up. So, Greavesy, old Paul Greaves, who seems to be missing Saint at the moment for his double act, he was talking about the facilities, and I just want to double check, Jamie, you might be the man in the know on that one, but don't we train at Carrington now, girls? Didn't they make that change? Or are we still in some two-bob gym down the road that we can occasionally get to?
No, but they switched to Carrington at some point towards the end of last season. And I know that there was a lot of building work planned. I'm not sure at what stage that is. And obviously there's been COVID protocols that are probably more in the past now, but the area is Carrington based now.
Good. So the training facilities have been improved. So let's just fact check that one. So I wanted that one there, just so we're definitely on the same thing there. But the last bit really is to our lovely Chelsea fans saying, being good enough and then not making it doesn't make it a failure. I don't think. I think let's take, and I know I hate doing it, but let's now take a look at the Premier League. You are in a situation where either Liverpool or Manchester City are going to win that title. Both of them would have thought they were going to get there, and it's going to come down to appointment. You wouldn't turn around and go, you finished second, that's a failure. You've got to give credit to the other team. And for me, I have diligently watched the FA player. I sat there, I turned it on and saw that City were 3-0 up, and I went, 3-0 up against Brighton, they're going to smash them. It's only 15 minutes gone, it won't be that one. And then at half time, 3-2. Oh my God, was this the day? Is this the day? No, it wasn't the day. 7-2, second half. So then I got there last weekend, 0-0 at half time. Go on, 0-0. No, 6-0. There's your difference. That's the difference. It's that ability to get that first goal. And City have had years to do that, and we haven't. So we just need to be calm, be patient, and enjoy the growth. At the moment, we're in a situation where you're kind of asking a 4-year-old child to do something that teenagers can do. We're not at that situation yet. You've got to allow that time to grow. It doesn't mean that we've got to sit there and wait another 10 years until we achieve. You've just got to be more realistic in your expectations. We are punching above our weight for a 4-year-old football. I don't think there's many other 4-year-old football clubs that could achieve what Manchester United achieved. And I appreciate we've got money behind us. I appreciate all that stuff. But I'm telling you now, we've got some of the best fans that you're going to see. They sing loud and proud and support their team. We've got people that turn up in their numbers. We're running sensible fan cam shows like this where we have proper conversations mixed with idiotic humour by myself and people that know what they're doing like the rest of you. And what we do is enjoy it. That's all we've got to do. We're going to go there against Chelsea. And do you know what? Finish fourth, finish third. All I care about is can we please have something to cheer? And if I know those girls, there's going to be something to cheer no matter what. So let's just be clear. We know the top three are the top three. We're coming for you. We'll get you one day. Might not be this year. Might not be next year. But be clear. We're coming. It's there. Have faith.
Thank you very much, Barry, and thank you to everybody in the comments. We'll do a show either next week or the week after because I do want to get into this into a lot more detail. I really do. But obviously, time's ticking away. Emma, thank you very much for coming on. Man City Women's Fancast. Do you want to give that a bit of a shout out, mate?
Yeah, I don't know if any of these lot are going to listen to it though. Yeah, I do Man City Fancast. It's at MCWFancast. But yeah, thank you for having me.
No, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Jamie, do you want to shout out your Twitter and anything else that you do?
Yeah, Twitter on the screen there, and you can find every bit of Manchester United content that I do on 90min.com. There's a tab for women's football, and then there's individual feeds for United, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, and the WSL as a whole as well. So check it out over there.
And just
great content, love it.
I just want to say, in case anybody's seeing Jamie for the first time, do you just want to explain what your kind of role is exactly? Because obviously you do a hell of a lot of Man United women's content.
Yeah, so basically, I've been doing WSL stuff for a couple of years, and then in the last few months, I've had the opportunity to really focus in on covering United around match days, pre-match press conference previews, post-match comment, any kind of other stuff. Because nobody else really does it with that level of consistency because obviously the restrictions on women's football journalism. So I'm really trying to fill a space that hasn't existed up till now, and hopefully you think I'm doing a good job.
You absolutely are. We retweet everything that we see as well. So no, it's been a fantastic show. Thank you, everybody. And we are going to crack on. We have got shows all over the weekend and next week as well. So we shall see you all again soon. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.